Hello everybody, welcome back to the internet's best reactions to the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. Today, we were actually at Silverstone. We took a slight wrong turning, but we were here for the Speed Machine Festival for the World Rallycross Championship. We're actually in the F1 drivers' briefing room right now. But let's get into your reactions. Let's do a commemorative tweet before we dive into the reactions. At Jamie_day27. Before the funny reactions, let's pay tribute to Niki Lauda first. Obviously, some really sad news throughout the paddock. The passing of one of the greatest drivers to ever grace the sport, and he will be sorely missed. Let's begin with the start of the race at SKM22. Nothing in the first corner. Well, it was pretty tight. There was a couple of people that decided to go up the inside of turn one, but no, there wasn't any massive collisions. And that is usually the thing that we rely on for Monaco to be any kind of excitement. But there was a little bit of chaos, a little bit of argy-bargy in the first lap, and then it got so much better. I really enjoyed this race. Please, I saw so many tweets going, oh, it's boring. I'm going to turn the TV off. If you didn't enjoy this race, then you need to learn about strategy and the tenseness of it all. It was good. At JohnT's_corner, Max being super cautious into turn one. What is this insanity? Now, I don't think he was super cautious. He put it up the inside. He was like, Valtteri, I am here. But then he was like, you know, he got caught on the curb a little bit. Valtteri just swooped round the outside. Max is really learning to be patient. I was very proud of him throughout this Grand Prix because he must have been sat there like, I can go so much faster. But then he just couldn't, and he was sat behind Hamilton the whole time. But he didn't crash, and it was a really good drive from him. Driver of the day for me. Now, one of the main talking points throughout the weekend was the fact Charles Leclerc dropped out of qualifying on Saturday. Q1 elimination, P15 on the grid, and whether he could get anywhere near the front during the race. But I was kind of watching it, and I didn't have a good feeling. I'm not going to lie. Just every kind of move he went for, it looked a little bit desperate. At 14A Oscar, Leclerc right now, and fair enough, a few of the moves at the start were really good, and he got them done into the hairpin, and you know, he was making some good progress. But then, you know, he dropped back, and it just all went really badly at the end, didn't it? It really did. I could sense it coming, and I'm sure a lot of you could as well, and it did end in disaster. And this brings me on nicely to our next tweet, which I don't like reading out, but it happens, so I'm going to have to. At Salt_Imperator, Leclerc be like. Weekend to forget, shall we say, Charles? I didn't have a good feeling about Monaco. It just after Baku, I was like, not sure about this one. I said it in the podcast that you'd crash, and you did. I didn't want it to happen. It just did, okay? Moving on to the next race, eh? But before we move on to the next race, we still have a lot of reactions from you guys. And the next thing, obviously after Charles's puncture, was the fact the safety car came out. And then everyone dived into the pits, including Max Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, at _thatguy Ben B. Verstappen coming out the pit stop. Now, I do not blame Red Bull or Verstappen for going for it because it was a ballsy move. That was the only way they were going to get in front of Bottas, who kind of slowed down before he came into the pit lane because Hamilton was coming in, so they had to double stack. And then they had a flyer of a pit stop side by side, but then I think it was the fact that he then kind of turned into Valtteri. It's almost like he didn't know he was there, which was the dodgy part of that unsafe release. But it was good fun to watch, and unfortunate that Max got the penalty. At MopLive95 sums up how I was feeling through some of the race, to be honest. It was a little bit of carnage into that second to last corner, Rascasse. What is going on? Literally, like, what was going on? Giovinazzi, I think we've got a tweet coming up actually. Let's do it right now. At Vasco Mora96, Giovinazzi this season. Now, he collided with Robert Kubica. I think it was George Russell that the commentators said. There was another mistake. There have been quite a few mistakes this season from the commentators, not naming any names, but you know who I watch, so you probably know who I'm talking about. But Giovinazzi, yeah, he's not had a particularly good season so far, and Monaco can add to that list of disappointment. At Jonas_Modric. Leclerc retiring. Yeah, I had hope, you know, despite him absolutely demolishing his right rear after being a little bit too quick when his tyre was punctured. I was like, maybe, just maybe he can stay in the race. I know he's last, but if he's on the lead lap, just maybe. But then he came into the pits, then he came into the pits again, and then it was game over. I'm okay, I promise. This one made me laugh, not purely because of the context, but mainly just the GIF itself, because I'm not sure if this is fair on Lando. At Victor Teot, Lando Norris. Now, I know he was at the front of a train, but I don't think he was holding them up as much as this. But there were some great midfield battles, which we didn't see too much of. But there was like a train of 5 or 6 cars at many occasions where, like Raikkonen, for example, his tyres were going off. He eventually pitted on sort of late lap 30s or something like that. But it was just so cool to see how closely bunched up the cars were. And obviously, Lewis Hamilton out in front as well. So there were many snails on the grid today. Social media team championship time now, and the Monaco Grand Prix was not actually too bad. A pretty bit of decent banter, and I'm actually going to include one submission that wasn't on race day because it does definitely deserve some points. In third place is said submission, Alfa Romeo Racing. Hey, Racing Point F1, what was that name again? And that was after Kimi saying, yeah, I have that Force India, or whatever it's called. And then Sport Pacer Racing Point Formula 1 team comes back with, we think it's Sauber Romeo, but we're never entirely sure. Nice. 1 point. In second place, we have actually the two teams exchanging blows once again, but this time it's Alfa Romeo coming out on top. Kimi behind Stroll again. I just love that gif. It's a great gif. I mean, to be fair, Sport Pacer Racing Point Formula 1 team, I love saying that. It's just such a mouthful. It's such a challenge. They came back with a pretty funny gif, but they don't get points for this one. Alfa Romeo Racing does. 2 points. And finally, it's Renault again. I can't even seem to hide it. The reigning champions coming away with maximum points once again. We have now deployed our advanced weather monitoring system. Of course, that is Sergei Sorokin with his hand out, checking to see if there's rain. It's just flawless. They are racking up the points, and I think that's going to take them back into the lead. 3 points. So that's 1 point for Sport Pacer Racing Point Formula 1 team, 2 points for Alfa Romeo Racing, and 3 points for Renault F1 team. Now, I'm pretty disappointed with the weather reports. I'm sure you guys are too. At Mick McKinney 87, risk of rain dropping, meaning not the rain that actually dropping, but the risk of rain is dropping. So it was 90%, and we got about 3 raindrops. And I'm pretty sure the F1 broadcasters, I don't know, this is not confirmed, this is a rumour, but you just see on the lens sometimes just 1 drop. Now, is that person just putting a finger in his bottle of water, popping it on the lens, bit of rain? It never gets wiped off, does it? You're like, oh, it's raining, and just nothing came. It was so disappointing. I wanted rain. Now, with it being Monaco, you would expect to have a lot of yellow flags. At Sir Whooper, the flag system as soon as someone goes a little bit off track. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was sat there watching it, every time I saw yellow flag sector 3, yellow flag sector 1, I was like, oh my God, there's a big crash, there's gonna be a big crash, there's gonna have to have been a big crash. And obviously the second to last corner, there was a big crash. That was before Charles retired. But you just kind of think every time there's a yellow flag, oh, who's gone off? Because there's not much room for error around Monaco. So when you see a yellow flag, it's usually carnage. Now, the man, the myth, the legend, returned to our screens and our ears for the Monaco Grand Prix. It is none other than Niao Guy. At Ermakora_Luca, Niao, he's back. Now, I have no idea how he has returned, and I didn't actually notice it when I was watching. I think I may have just dozed off for a second, but I saw the video, and that is indeed Niao Guy. And it almost feels like Formula 1 had just thrown it in there just to create a meme. Who knows? I'm just glad he returned. Now, you know how I mentioned that midfield battle, the train? Well, it got pretty exciting when Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas turned up at the party, didn't it? Although not as exciting as maybe I would have expected when the amount of cars that needed to be lapped, they were all fighting as well. It could have been carnage. At 10 Papala, Lewis arriving to the midfield train. Now, I don't know about the woman running. I don't think Lewis's pace was that quick. I mean, he actually struggled to catch a lot of back markers, but he was trying to save his tyres, and how he managed to do that, it was insane. You have to give it to Lewis today. He drove fantastically. Doesn't make me a fanboy. I've never been a fanboy of Lewis. I don't know why people think that. I'm just commending him on his drive. Am I allowed to do that? Can I please do that? Well done, Lewis. Good drive. Doesn't make me a fanboy. Now, this didn't affect the race result, but I found it quite interesting that Lance Stroll allowed the first 3 to come through, and then Valtteri Bottas got absolutely shafted. At Kieran_Shaker, Bottas driving past Stroll right now. I imagine he probably would have been a lot more annoyed had it been a track that you could actually overtake at. And yeah, I just found the whole thing very tense. I didn't know who was going to win until the last lap. Now, surely that is the kind of race you want. For people that think it's boring, like, what do you want? I know maybe more overtakes, fair enough, I agree. But it was a different kind of exciting. Tense. Tense, I tell you. Something I didn't enjoy as much was Lewis Hamilton's team radio, but now, after thinking about it, I feel like it was all just a ploy. I feel like he was just selling this to Ferrari and Red Bull, that his tyres were his tyres were bad, but I don't think they were as bad as he was letting on. At Lara_SWFC, Lewis Hamilton on the radio every lap like. He was crying. He was so sad for most of the race. He said, I can't make it, I'm going to come into the pits. But then in his post-race interview, he said, I was never going to come into the pits. Cheeky. Very, very cheeky. I wonder if Bono is in on it as well, or if it's just Lewis Hamilton doing his own psychological mind games and not even telling Mercedes that he's going to sell him a few dummies over the team radio. At RAHeart21, Lewis, my tyres are dead. Bono. I do wonder. I'd love to know the workings of an F1 team. It'd just be fascinating. Getting towards the end of the race now, Lewis's front left was looking rather angry indeed, and Max was getting so damn close, especially at the hairpin, at dammit Joshua _ every time Verstappen gets to the hairpin. He was so close. I can't believe he didn't run into the back of him at least once in that corner. I know that he did later on down towards out of the tunnel. That was very hairy indeed. We'll talk about that shortly. At Producer Gaz 1998, Hamilton's defending has been brilliant. Now, you can't take anything away from Lewis. He drove excellently, flawlessly, didn't see any mistakes, didn't give Max really any opportunities. But then at the same time, you have to also take into account that it is Monaco and it's pretty much impossible to overtake, as we found out when Daniel Ricciardo had that failure and lost 160 brake horsepower and still won. So Hamilton, great drive. You can't take it away from him, but not the most spectacular. This brings me on to the incident, the one time where Max got a pretty decent run compared to Lewis going into the tunnel. And I was sat there and I was like, wow, it's 3.5 tenths. This is the closest he's been. He's going to go for it. And lo and behold, he threw one up the inside. At Gamer Querta, Verstappen right now. Now, Hamilton is very lucky that that didn't end up in a puncture or even something worse, because those two collided at pretty high speeds, big braking zone. Verstappen and Hamilton very lucky to come away unscathed, although Max obviously got his 5-second penalty from a different incident, so he didn't even finish on the podium. He had to go for it. He did, and you know, it was a shame that he locked up, because I would love to have seen how that would have ended. I think Hamilton would have cut the chicane anyway, but it was good racing. I really enjoyed it.
And now it's time for Race Rundown with your host, Matthew Gallagher.
Race rundown. Now, we have one DNF, the man that I obviously did not want to DNF, so this is going to be a very difficult race rundown for more than one reason. Let's get into the race classification. The race result finishers thing was as follows. Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, Verstappen, Gasly, Sainz, Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, Verstappen, Gasly, Sainz, Kvyat, Albon, Grosjean. Nope, that's Ricciardo. His name's Ricciardo, not Grosjean. Goujon. Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, Verstappen, Gasly, Sainz, Kvyat, Albon, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Norris, Gagnussen. Who is Gagnussen? Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, Verstappen, Gasly, Sainz, Kvyat, Albon, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Norris, Magnussen, Perez, Hulkenberg, Russell, Stroll, Raikkonen, Kubica, Giovinazzi. And the non-finishers were... Leclerc. And the race finished, and the non-finisher was Leclerc. And that is it. We are done here for the internet's best reactions to the Monaco Grand Prix. Pretty decent race. I have to say I'm very happy that Monaco was able to deliver a tense race, thanks to the Mercedes strategists, of course. If you didn't enjoy it, I'm sorry. I don't know what more you could possibly have wanted from a Monaco Grand Prix apart from rain and overtaking. Actually, that would have made it better, wouldn't it? But hey, if you want to get involved next time, use the hashtag WTF1 on social media, and we may well be featured if it's good enough. I'm Matt with WTF1, and we'll see you soon.